Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabha. Hello everyone. So today I feel like talking about the human realm in the 6 realms of reincarnation. Someone may be like, oh, it's good to be a human in this life. So why do I want to exit the cycle of reincarnation? It's not bad to be a human at all. Particularly if someone has very good blessings in this life, they have maybe good amount of wealth, they don't have to worry about anything, good family, people who love them, etc. If they have very good blessings in this life, they may think, oh, it's so good to be a human in this life. So even if you are a human in this life, it does not guarantee you that you will still be reborn as a human in your next life. The Buddha told us it's extremely difficult to obtain the human body in the 6 realms of reincarnation. So some people hold the wrong view that if I am in a human body in this life, then in the next lifetime I will still be in a human body. This is not true. In the sutras, the Buddha used many parables to tell us how difficult it is to obtain the human body. So such as in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the Buddha talked about the blind turtle and the floating wood. So assume all the earth becomes great ocean, and in this great ocean there is a turtle whose lifespan is immeasurable kalpas, and every 100 years the turtle will surface up on the water every 100 years. And in this great ocean there happens to be a floating wood. And on this floating wood, there is a hole in the middle of the floating wood. And what is the chance for the blind turtle, when he happens to surface every 100 years, to meet this hole in the floating wood? So the possibility is extremely slim, right? And the Buddha said it is still possible for the blind turtle to meet the hole of this floating wood. But to attain a human body in the next lifetime is even more difficult than that. And another parable is that the Buddha picked up some soil on his hands, and he asked how is the soil on the earth compared to the soil that's left in the cracks of his fingernail. And he said the probability for a human in this life to attain another human life is like the soil that's left in the cracks of his fingernail. And the humans that will lose the human body in the next life and fall into the evil realm, it's like the immeasurable soil on earth. So as we can see, it's extremely difficult to obtain a human body in the next life. Just because we are humans in this life, we are fortunate enough to be in human bodies in this life, it does not guarantee us to obtain human bodies in our next life. If one wants to obtain a human body in the next life, one needs to practice the 5 precepts. So the 5 precepts are no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants. So how many of us can really observe the 5 precepts really well in our life? And most people, they don't even know about this, and then they commit lots of evil deeds. So it's extremely difficult to obtain another human body in the next life. And most beings, after this human life, most likely they will just fall into the 3 evil realms: the animal, the hungry ghost, and the hell realm. Let's say if you are fortunate enough to obtain another human life, but just know that there will always be suffering even if you obtain a human life. So what are the kinds of sufferings in the human realm we talked about before? There will always be the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death, separation from loved ones, and to be with people you dislike, to not get what you want, and the suffering of the 5 skandhas. So the 5 skandhas are the form, the body, the feelings, the thoughts, the mental activities, and the consciousness. So all the physical and mental sufferings. If one were to stay in the Samsara, in the human realm, there will always be these kinds of sufferings. Doesn't matter how rich you are or what's your social status, one cannot escape all the sufferings. Like the Buddha has shown us, even if he was born as a prince in India, he was still determined to exit the cycle of reincarnation, because he sees that if one keeps staying in the cycle of reincarnation, one will always experience all kinds of sufferings. The suffering is just endless. Saying that to be born as a human, this is still the most favorable condition amongst all the 6 realms. Why is that? In the human realm, it is the easiest for one to cultivate the Buddha Dharma, because we don't have such a long lifespan like those heavenly beings. Our lifespan is at most 100 years, or for most people maybe 80 years. And there is a mix of happiness and suffering. So because of this not too long lifespan, we can think of impermanence. And because there's a mix of happiness and suffering, so it's easier for us to understand impermanence. Whatever happiness we experience here, it is still impermanent. And because there is suffering, it's easier for us to be awakened, to want to cultivate the Dharma and to be awakened from all sufferings in life. So the Buddha said the human birth is actually the most favorable amongst all other realms. The 3 evil realms, the hungry ghost, the animal, and the hell realm, the suffering is just too much. It's extremely difficult, almost impossible for them to cultivate the Buddha Dharma if you suffer too much. For instance, in the animal realm, if you constantly think about you will be killed by the humans, or the hungry ghost realm, if you're constantly being starved, you're constantly hungry, you cannot think of the Buddha Dharma. It's not so easy to encounter the Buddha Dharma. That's why the Buddha chose to be born in the human realm, because in the human realm it is the easiest for people to encounter the Buddha Dharma and to want to practice it. In the heavenly realm, because beings in the heavens, they enjoy really tremendously long lifespan and a lot of pleasures, so really don't want to cultivate the Buddha Dharma. That's why in Buddhism, even to be born in the heaven realm is still not ideal. The heavenly beings, they still subject to a limited lifespan, despite they enjoy tremendously long lifespan, which we'll talk about in detail in the near future. So it's extremely fortunate that we are being born as humans in this lifetime, and we should not take this human life for granted. For people who commit suicide, they really take this human life for granted, and the karma would not be good. Really very bad karma for people who commit suicide. So do not do stupid things. So do not take this human life for granted. And also it is extremely rare to encounter the Buddha Dharma while we are in the human bodies. So why is that? We talked about before, Shakyamuni Buddha had entered Parinirvana. This was his performance. But we're still fortunate that his teachings are still available in the world. And his teachings will last here for 12,000 years. And then after that, for a very, very long period, there will be no Buddha Dharma in the world until a Maitreya Bodhisattva come down to become a Buddha. This will be a very, very, very extremely long time, which we talked about before. So we're still fortunate that we are born at this time, that first we obtain human bodies, and second, we can encounter the Buddha Dharma, and particularly we can encounter the Pure Land Dharma, to Nianfo, recite the name of Amitabha Buddha, and to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. This is the easiest path, and perhaps the only path for most beings, if not all the beings in the world, to exit the cycle of reincarnation by relying on the power of Amitabha Buddha. We talked about before, to rely on our self-effort to cut off all the attachment to afflictions, to the wrong views and wrong perceptions. This is extremely difficult. to rely on our self-effort to transcend the cycle of reincarnation. One shall rely on Amitabha Buddha's great vows and power to deliver us to his Pure Land. This is the easiest for us to transcend the cycle of reincarnation. So one must not take this precious human life for granted, and one should really kneel in our daily life diligently with faith and vow to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. The Buddha in the sutras also told us that we are not only the humans. So currently we are in Jambudvipa. So Jambudvipa is like planet Earth. Not only India, but it's really referring to planet Earth. And the Buddha told us that in the small world there is Mount Meru, or Shumeru. So this mountain is the center of a small world in Buddhism. When we talk about world in Buddhism, we don't mean planet Earth. The Buddha could very well mean maybe the solar system or even the galaxy. It's a small world in Buddhism. And the Mount Meru has 4 continents surrounding it. So the Mount Meru is not visible by our physical eyes, but people with great meditative concentration, they can see that. Enlightened beings, they can see that. So there are 4 continents that surround this Mount Meru. And the 4 continents are a bit like planets. And currently, we are down the south. It's called Jambudvipa. Planet Earth is Jambudvipa. So to the east is Purvavideha, and to the west is Apragotaniya, and to the north is Uttarakuru. So on all these 4 continents, or 4 planets, there are all human beings that are living there. And their lifespans, their lifestyles are completely different from us beings on Earth, on Jambudvipa. And if you want to know about extraterrestrial life, I really recommend you go and read the Buddha Sutras. The Buddha described all these extraterrestrial beings, which are still humans, how their lifespans are like and their lifestyles. They're very different from us beings on Earth, on Jambudvipa. So in the near future, we will also discuss these different humans on different planets. It's like we're saying beings from Mars or from Venus. It's kind of like that. Particularly beings in Uttarakuru. Extremely interesting, the lifestyle there. And there's a lot of pleasures for beings in Uttarakuru. Almost no suffering. So for beings in Uttarakuru, they're not interested in the Buddha Dharma because they enjoy a very long lifespan and they don't really experience any suffering while they're still alive. So beings in the Uttarakuru, they do not understand the Dharma and they do not understand impermanence and the Four Noble Truths. So amongst all these 4 different worlds, continents or planets, in Uttarakuru, there is no Buddha Dharma. So in the future, we'll discuss more about these different human beings from different planets. Most importantly for us beings here is to remember to recite the name of Amitabha Buddha with faith and vow, and to attain rebirth in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land in this lifetime. This is the easiest, most effective way to help us transcend the cycle of reincarnation in one lifetime and to realize enlightenment and the final Buddhahood. So I hope this helps. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Amitabhaya.